Lesson 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 greater than 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So those numbers represent a whole lot of other things, which we're going to be going into. So let's start at the top. So we have two types of neurons. We have motor and sensory. Okay, motor goes from the inner, which is the CNS, to the body. Okay, so it looks like this. You have your dendrites up here. You have your axon, which runs through the middle, sending the positive, negative message, ionic message. You have myelin, which are the protection for it. We'll go more into that. And then you have your cell body. Now for a motor, the cell body is located right here or right here. But basically it's at the end of it with the dendrites coming out. That's for motor. Then you have sensory. Sensory takes it from the body to the inner CNS. On sensory, you have your dendrites. What's this? Axon, correct. What's this? Myelin, correct. Your cell body, rather, is located out here. It can also be inside, but for this example, we just did out here. So it can be out here. That's the main difference, is the cell body, its location, and inner to body or body to inner. So what happens is, this is called BBOS seesaw, and go ahead and look at insured stuff about what that's about. This is just from the top. So what happens are, all these are connected. What BBOS seesaw does is it takes the dendrites from the motor and grows them into the cell body of the sensory, giving one complete control of what they're trying to accomplish just by thinking it and by putting a baseline and paying the thought. So the like fanatical concept of I can do whatever, like, yes, but there's a law. So this is a proof of that. Okay, but we call it BBOS seesaw. So when these dendrites from the motor grow into the cell body of the sensory, that is BBOS seesaw. It's what most people know as like, well, how much brain function? This person uses 10%. This animal uses 50. Cool. BBOS seesaw. Hey, buddy. So whenever that happens, it equals this. You have one neuron from these two where this one still has a cell body up here, but it also has a cell body attached to the axon. So it's got two cell bodies, right? It's more control. Okay, so how? Well, you have your hertz, which means if we're converting for CF energy into matter, we know we're going to be using speculative. You know, we're going to be using the baseline 25 energy and all that. You can go to those lessons to see how it's going on. One other thing is that the myelin, it maintains the positive and negative axons message R, R, R. So if we build BBOS seesaw, which is always happening, which is an Armstrong distribution, is BBOS seesaw. The axon RR, the myelin continues the repeat, remix, remain with time, sequence, or zero as dub. So if you have a good myelin, which is from the baseline of those laws, if you have a good myelin, you can take it into time. No matter what the time is, whether you're using time sequences, which leads to zero as dub. So what is the point of this, right? Well, let's start with, how could trillions of neurons be 500 billion? Would that even be a good thing? How could 500 billion neurons be 100 million? Oh, 10,000 neurons. Oh, 10 neurons. Oh, 1 neuron. Because that's what this implies, if you're getting that. That implies that all those trillions can connect into one. Boom! What would be the advantage of that? What is advantageous about having Yachad, which is near one, versus trillions, which is Kilai Pod? Simple, assertive, it is what it is. Luz distribution. It's Espanol for angstrom capacity. So we know we're creatures of light, lost it, etc. Getting it back, etc. Then we need a way to take the most amount of light within us, Goya, to get rid of the darkness, Goya, right? Because you can't control them. You can't control me. And I are also that. Anyway, continuing, and sorry for that tangent. So I'm going to give an advantageous example of Joe Street. Whether you're talking about, or you're talking about, dang. Let's say they promise to do something, right? And there's light, boom, and it comes in and it's given. But then all of a sudden they forget that they promised it. Well, they're putting that darkness, Goya, and now they're going to be forgetful, right? But let's just say all of a sudden he steps aside, boom, and he takes a pole, and the toll comes and says, yes, step aside, we got you. And he's no longer in that position of power. So what he said he was going to do, he didn't do, which was the darkness, which camouflaged or destroyed the light. And he gets real forgetful, boom. And then he comes back, boom, and he steps off, and now he's got memory. Boom. That's an example of it. So it brings in all of what I was talking about, Luz distribution, angstrom capacity, the baseline, tell the truth, being in a position of power, influence, boom, and then stepping off and being a man of your word and getting that intelligence memory back. I'm talking about St. Joe too. Anyway, okay, so that's the concept of it. Again, not to toot horns because we're going to do that later on. You guys are going to love this. But go look at the insert. I'm just going through a quick distribution of it, and there's not books, but a book of it for sure. Make sure it's insured when you talk about it too, buddy. All right? Good. Now, let's go more into the 54321 87654. Okay, so triumphant is 54321. Tragic is 87654. Tragic, as we know, is a less angstrom darkness. Goya. Triumphant, light. So, each one is associated with a specific sense. There it is. Study it, learn it, repeat it, show some Amy on it. Get that thing going. So, 54321, hear, optic, touch, taste, smell. 87654, taste, smell, hear, touch, optic. Memorize it. Now, whenever you bring them across, and this is the battle of it. This is a battle. This is interesting right here. So if you have here, it always matches up with here. So triumphant here, and tragic here always meet on the angstrom battlefield. Okay? Who is victorious is what is rather interesting about it. So here's always going to match up with here. Optic with optic, touch with touch, taste with taste, smell with smell. Whenever you put all of that together, you're going to equal this. So the Biba, seesaw, pop whiz, lose capacity, angstrom ability. Exactly. It's threshing floor. The Biba, seesaw, threshing floor ends up as 5 triumphant with 6 tragic. 4 triumphant, 4 tragic. 3 triumphant, 5 tragic. 2 triumphant, 8 tragic. 1 triumphant, 7 tragic. Now, you would think that where the battle takes place, that's where the angstrom is distributed. No. Yes, it's something different. So it's always the next one in this order. So if 5 and 6 are battling, Biba, seesaw, threshing floor, and triumphant is victorious, then 4 is the one that receives the angstrom. Whereas if 5 and 6 are battling and tragic is triumphant, then 5 is the one that receives it. When you break those down, you're going to hear 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 5, 8, 4, 7, 6. Again, memorize it. Each one of these numbers is a sense, so that's a sense that receives the angstrom to continue the angstrom message, whether it's tragic or triumphant, which is actually what makes it incredibly difficult to catch, which is one time for all this recorded time, why we're doing it now. So we are, for the sake of not overly confusing the system and just proving a point, we are going to only be focused on 5, 6, which is 5 hearing, 6 hearing. So if we're using 5 and 6 hearing and triumphant wins, then 4 is the distribution, which is optics. If tragic wins, then 5 is the victor, in which that is touch. And just to let you know, tomorrow's expressions is how you'll know you'll see it. Just wait till you see we got this set up. And if you touch, get ready for one of them skeletons crawling out and be like, this is why you missed it. And it happens at 8 a.m. We like the pro nation's military time, starfish time, sequences, which is 28,800. And this is gonna be a repeat, not a remix and not a remake, but every day you have the opportunity. So what I'm going on that, let me first tell you, apply it to the speculative formula. Let's see how this works with our solarized expression. So we know this old dance right here. Okay? So our F is going to be D1 of 2. So every place where this is repeatable, remix, remain is D1 of 2. Our AR is D2 of 1 because the most perfect, easiest to do it, less credit debit needed to get paid is 2, but it happens throughout 1. And it's also only personal. So although we're doing this right now in the afuera, outside, whenever it happens, it's only going to be personal in here, okay? Inside the thalamus, correct. FS 1358 watts per meter squared for D1, D2 for all level degrees of 1 and 2. C, we're not going to see pi t it. We're just going to do 186,000 chattery miles per second. The area surface, the big one, is D2. Deck 2, 1 plus P is going to be, our iridescence is going to take place when one sequence says the Ain roared at specifically 28,800 sequence. Correct. Our cosine, again, 90 degrees. The D equals H is going to be that, but with Jupiter. Okay, our R, remix, repeat, remain is going to be remix every day from here forth. But small, repeat, remain, because it's personal thalamus and it's up to you to do it after I show you how to do it today. Our P we know is perfect, eternal, infinite angstroms, which we strive to also be. Our Hertz is B boss seesaw, being true. And zrod.mpa is, as we know, 0.25 times 9 with the psh across LD D1 of 2 at the sequence 28,800. Our V Ain roared is going to be memorized. Simple. Okay. Now, what is the topic of conversation that I'm going to take this B-boss seesaw threshing floor into using a law and let the senses prove what it is in the sense of eternal angstroms? Skeld. Is March 28th, 2013 started 1000? Yes. So if I was telling the truth there at 8 a.m., because I said memorized and paid it, CDPD, then the result is everybody's going to hear a horn inside the thalamus, only personally. You can't hear people's thoughts. Neither can I. No one can. So the result equals that horn for 86,399. That may be too much. It may not be enough. The trick is to handle the decibels. Right. So bring it back to the threshing floor. So we put the Hertz energy onto it. Use the law with the topic of conversation. And so your sense is the one that will do it. So tomorrow's expressions, like imagine going and see somebody tomorrow who heard that in there also, because like SH was a bit on the nose. And you could just see it in their face. That's you seeing it. So it still satisfies this angstrom distributed at B, ba, seesaw, threshing floor. Now, if they didn't hear it, it's going to be tougher because we're just pulling it. Everybody's going to hear it instantly. Touch. So if the person tomorrow, and it's on you to sit there at 28,800 and say memorized, so that you yourself can hear it, because it's only personal in your thalamus. So that's pretty cool, because that's pretty freaking awesome, brah. Man, it's pretty awesome. Right? But if not, then tomorrow, that touch, remember when I said skeletons, what made them miss sequence 28,800? And that'll be on touch that made them miss to say memorized at 28,800 and hear that horn in their personal thalamus. And just a little word to the wise, that horn you're hearing, yeah, it's a trumpet. Okay, so that is what it is. We might talk about it more. What I know is tomorrow, we might not. I don't know. It's there. You got plenty to study. I just wanted to prove that this is how it's going down and give you all like a fresh new example, which per Jonah is good and per Jonah is bad as well. So yeah, focus on, if I was going to study this from brand new, I would focus on, oh, okay, I can fill that out. That's easy. Oh, that makes sense. You're ordering the dendrites using Hertz energy into matter to go into the cell body, which is better control of the self. It's a bipolar ability of motor and sensory. Simple. What are advantageous examples that have already happened? Look for those. And then I would really, really buck down on this right here, because it doesn't change. Those examples change. Was he talking about Joe or St. Joe? Was he talking about SH or not? This doesn't change. So whenever I come in and I'm showing you further on it, you can just say, oh, this is what it is. And the example is, well, I was offended that time. I wasn't offended that time. And you don't get so much Amy behind it, which is emotion. But this always stays the same. Again, try on the speculative formula. It's generally very expensive and not very fun to do. But you can start filling it out, because a lot of these are just repetitions anyway, minus like this is how you make it unique to the thing that is repetitious. So yeah, it is 7:40 now, so what, 20 minutes or so. But that's what that horn is. Yeah, so good lesson, and I will see you all when I see you.